Hello, grandkids. It's Mema for Stories with Mema. And today I have a book for you called Books by Horseback. This is by Emma Carlson Byrne. Books by Horseback. Well, you know how Mema loves books and loves horses. So when I saw this at the library, I had to get it. Books by Horseback. Let's see what it says here. The Kentucky dawn is gray and chilly, but Edith is already awake and pasting a torn book. She promised 8-year-old William Caudle that she would bring him an adventure story today. Edith is a pack horse librarian. Every day she travels for miles to deliver books. William lives far back in the mountains. Edith will have to ride hard to reach his family's cabin. I think that's a job Mema would like to do. Edith laces her boots and slaps on her hat as she stuffs storybooks, magazines, and her lunch into her book sack. She hears the distant crack of thunder. Looks like a storm is coming, Dan, Edith says. Dan nickers as she hoists his saddle. We better hurry. Dan picks his way down the steep slope to Troublesome Creek. Edith and Dan slide and slip, scrabbling in the thick mud. Water splashes up onto Dan's chest. Edith grips the book sack tight. If her books get wet, they'll be ruined. Past the creek, Piney Knob Ridge thrusts its shoulders into the sky. But Edith is not afraid. She's climbed these slopes since she was a little girl. Dan surges forward, straining, climbing toward the top of the ridge high above them. He snorts and he blows. His ribs heave. You can do it, Dan, Edith says. But Dan has to stop. Piney Knob is too steep, and Edith is too heavy. Edith lashes the book sack to the saddle. She slides down and hugs Dan's damp neck. Edith leads Dan up the ridge. Thorny branches slap at her face. Rocks slide under her feet, tumbling down to Troublesome Creek. We're almost there, Dan. At the top, Edith and Dan rest and breathe. The sun peeks out from behind the storm clouds and warms their faces. Edith pulls out her lunch, 2 biscuits and some ham. Dan snuffles at the fresh grass. The rumpled mountains spread out below them. Edith can just see the Caudle's cabin nestled in the holler 3 miles away. That's far away, isn't it? Partway down the other side of the Piney Knob, a little spring bubbles. Edith is thirsty. She drinks and splashes the cool limestone water against her hot face. A flash of lightning slashes across the sky. Dan jumps as thunder booms, echoing through the hills. Easy, boy, she says. She pats his neck as the rain starts. The wind rises to a scream, bending the treetops. Edith pulls on her coat as rain drips off the brim of her hat and pelts Dan's rump. Come on, Dan, Edith shouts. She slaps his shoulders with the reins. Dan springs into a gallop. Crash! A tree smashes down right in front of them. No time to stop. Edith and Dan clear it in one spectacular leap. Woohoo! Go Edith and Dan. The bookwoman's here! The bookwoman's here! William shouts. He and his sister Ruth are waiting on the cabin porch. I knew she wouldn't forget. Edith and Dan trot into the yard, breathing hard. Mr. Caudle hurries to open the barn door for Dan. Did you bring me an adventure story? William asks. Of course I did. Edith hands down the book sack so they can choose. And I have a paw pudding recipe for you, Miss Caudle. Outside, the rain beats against the cabin walls, but inside, Edith pulls a chair close to the wood stove. Miss Caudle hands her a mug of coffee. She opens the storybook and starts to read. William and Ruth crowd against Edith's knees as she tells the story of a magic sword buried in a stone. Even Mr. Caudle listens. By the time she's finished, the storm had passed. That sounds like The Sorcerer and the Stone. Edith still has more families to visit. The creeks are going to be extra dangerous after the rain. Mounted again, Edith waves goodbye. The children are waiting, Dan. Edith says, let's go. And that's the end. What a wonderful job to take books to children to read and to be riding a horse. Mema rode her horse today in the rain. It was raining just a little bit this morning, and it was lovely outside. Mema loves you very much. I love you. A bushel and a peck, a bushel and a peck, and a hug around the neck. I'll read you later.